Hey everyone, welcome back to Corporate Decoder, the place where we decode the confusing language of business and finance to reveal what is really going on. And today we're digging into Trulieve Cannabis Corp's latest report. Will things be blooming or wilting for them? Let's find out. Now, you probably know Trulieve as a big player in the cannabis industry, and like any public company, they have to regularly tell the world how they are doing financially. That is what this report is all about, giving us a peek behind the curtain. Okay, so the main reason for this filing is to officially share Trulieve's financial results for the third quarter and the first 9 months of 2025. Companies put out press releases to announce these things, and then they sort of officially file them with the SEC, the US Securities and Exchange Commission. So everyone gets the same important information. The date is the 5th of November, 2025. This is when they announced their financial picture for the period that ended on the 30th of September of the same year. We're looking at the last 3 months and the first 9 months of 2025. This report is really made up of two parts, essentially. First, there is the press release itself, which is basically a summary of their performance. It is like the headline news. And then there is a corporate presentation. Think of this as the visual aid, the slideshow that Trulieve's management might use when they talk to investors or at industry events. It is designed to highlight important information in an easy to understand way. Now, the juicy details are in the financial stuff, and even though this filing doesn't have the full financial tables right here, it points us to those exhibits. These exhibits are where we find the numbers that tell the real story about how Trulieve is performing. When we look at these kinds of reports, we're always trying to see if the company is making more money than it is spending, if its sales are going up or down, and what that means for its future. Are they growing and expanding, or are they facing tough times? It is important to understand a little legal nuance here. The press release and presentation are what they call furnished, not filed in the strictest sense for some parts of the law. This essentially means they are providing this information for awareness, but they are not taking on the same level of legal responsibility for every single word as they would if it were fully incorporated into a more formal filing. It is a common practice, but it means we treat the direct claims in those documents with a slightly more cautious eye, knowing they are primarily meant for public disclosure and not necessarily a legally binding financial statement in all contexts. Let's think about what Trulieve Cannabis Corp actually does. They are a major operator in the cannabis market, particularly in the United States. They cultivate, process, and sell cannabis products. In the world of business, success often hinges on sales growth, managing costs, and expanding market share. So when we look at their results, we want to see if their revenue, meaning the total money they bring in from selling their products, is increasing. We also want to know if they are managing their expenses well so that a good portion of that revenue turns into profit. Are they opening new dispensaries? Are their existing ones selling more? Are they innovating with new products? These are the kinds of questions the financial results help answer. If we had the full financial statements here, we'd be looking for key numbers like total revenue, cost of goods sold, operating expenses, and net income. For instance, if revenue had grown by, say, 15% year over year, that would indicate strong market demand and successful sales strategies. On the other hand, if their expenses had increased at a faster rate than their revenue, that would be a red flag, suggesting that their costs are getting out of control and eating into their profits. We'd also look at things like their debt levels. Is the company borrowing a lot of money? High debt can be risky, especially if interest rates rise or if the company's earnings falter. For example, if we saw a number like gross profit margin of 60%, that would mean that for every dollar of product they sell, they have 60 cents left after paying for the direct costs of making that product, like the plants themselves and the labor to process them. A healthy gross profit margin is crucial for covering all the other costs of running a business, like rent, salaries for non-production staff, marketing, and so on. If that margin was lower, say 40%, it would mean they have less money available to cover those other essential business costs. Considering Trulieve's position, they operate in a highly regulated and competitive industry. The legal cannabis market is still evolving, with different states having different rules and varying levels of market maturity. Success for Trulieve would look like consistent revenue growth, expanding into new markets where legally permitted, and maintaining profitability in a space that can have tight margins due to taxes and regulations. They are likely competing with other multi-state operators, or MSORs, as they are called, and also with smaller regional players. Their strategy likely involves a combination of organic growth through opening new stores and increasing sales at existing ones, and possibly strategic acquisitions to expand their reach. From what we can glean from this filing, the company is providing an update on its financial performance. They are essentially saying, here is how we did in the last quarter and the first 9 months of the year. The exhibits, the press release, and the presentation are designed to give investors a clear picture. We're looking for signs of growth, profitability, and overall financial health. Now, looking at these results more broadly, Trulieve appears to be actively communicating its performance to the market. The fact that they are providing a corporate presentation suggests they are engaged in investor relations and aiming to build confidence. Their strengths likely lie in their established presence in key markets and their experience navigating the complex regulatory landscape of the cannabis industry. However, the industry itself presents significant risks, including evolving regulations, potential shifts in consumer demand, and intense competition. A key opportunity for Trulieve would be further expansion into new, legal markets as they open up and continued innovation in product development to capture consumer interest. So to wrap up, this report is Trulieve Cannabis Corp's way of updating everyone on their financial status for the third quarter and first 9 months of 2025. While the full financial tables are in the exhibits, the filing tells us they've announced their results and provided supporting materials. We need to look at those exhibits to really understand the numbers. If the numbers show strong sales and profit growth, that is a good sign for the company's future. If they show otherwise, it might be a sign of challenges ahead. We need to see those detailed numbers to give a definitive opinion on their direction. Alright, that is our initial decode of this Trulieve Cannabis Corp filing. What is your take on their performance and what these updates might mean? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this breakdown was valuable, hit that like button to help us out and subscribe for more deep dives into corporate filings. And hey, join our Discord community linked in the description for more discussions. Thanks for watching, see you next time.